Welcome to your deep dive. We're shifting gears into the world of electric SUVs this time, specifically the 2025 Polestar 3.
A fascinating choice.
It is. You sent over a whole stack of articles on it, but I gotta say, this doesn't seem like just another electric car.
Yeah, no, it's generating a lot of buzz. What grabbed you first about it?
Well, flipping through these articles, the design definitely stood out. Scandinavian minimalism. That seems to be the phrase everyone's landed on. You getting the same vibe.
Oh, absolutely. They really emphasize those clean lines, and that focus on functionality very much in line with Scandinavian design principles.
Right, but it's more than just a pretty face, right? The articles mention something about the design improving aerodynamics.
It does, which is huge GE for electric vehicles,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that impacts their range significantly.
Okay, so it's efficient, but how about get up and go? I mean, one article even hinted at some impressive acceleration for an SUV.
Yeah, they're not shy about the performance. Dual motors, one on each axle, means serious torque.
Okay, but what does that mean in actual numbers? How quick are we talking?
Well, let's just say it's significantly quicker than your average SUV. And it's not just about raw speed either. The articles highlighted the handling and stability, particularly for an SUV supposedly exceptional.
So we're talking about a family-friendly vehicle that can corner on a dime. Okay, now I'm really interested. But let's move to the inside. I noticed the article spent a lot of time on the interior.
Yeah, the cabin seems to be a major selling point for the Polestar 3. They're really pushing the luxury angle, but also technology and sustainable materials.
Which is a nice touch. One article mentioned they use recycled fishing nets in the upholstery. How cool is that?
Definitely different and smart. Seems like Polestar is really tuned in to that demand for sustainable luxury. But, and this is key, the articles stress that it's not just about looking good or being eco-friendly. The interior design also emphasizes practicality and ease of use.
Which, let's be honest, sometimes gets lost when car makers go all in on fancy tech. So what do they do here?
Well, for example, they have that massive touchscreen,
Right, saw that.
but they also kept actual physical buttons for the essential stuff. So you're not constantly fiddling with a screen while driving.
Okay, now that is smart design. But let's talk range anxiety, that elephant in the EV room. Did those articles mention anything about that?
They did. The Polestar 3 supposedly boasts a range of up to 315 miles.
315, that's actually really good, especially for an SUV.
Right.
But what about charging time? Because no one wants to be tethered to a charging station all day.
Totally agree. And the articles make sure to highlight the fast charging. They say it can go from 10 to 80% in about 30 minutes.
Wow, that's basically a coffee break.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of impressive tech, there was this term bidirectional charging that caught my eye. Any idea what that's all about?
Now that's where things get really interesting. Essentially, it means your car can become a power source.
Wait, seriously, like, I could plug my house into this thing.
Well, maybe not your whole house. Not quite your whole house, but you're on the right track. Basically, with bidirectional charging, the energy can flow both ways. So you can charge your car from the grid, obviously, but you can also use the car's battery to send energy back to the grid or power other things.
It's like a giant battery on wheels.
Exactly. Some of the articles talked about using the Polestar 3 to power tools at a work site, say, or even as a backup power source if you're camping or something.
Okay, that's pretty cool. But they were also talking about something bigger, right? Like how this could change the whole energy grid.
Yeah, some pretty big ideas are being tossed around. Imagine if you've got enough EVs with bidirectional charging, they could help stabilize the whole energy grid, especially during peak hours.
That's wild. Okay, so we've covered design, performance, tech. Is there anything this car can't do? But what about the actual driving experience? Did those articles go into any detail about what it's actually like to drive this thing?
They did touch on that. It seems like Polestar is aiming for a really refined, comfortable ride, but without sacrificing that performance aspect. A few articles mention a focus on a quiet cabin, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you take away the engine noise, and suddenly things like road noise probably become much more noticeable.
Exactly. Sounds like they've put a lot of effort into minimizing that, making the driving experience more peaceful, more luxurious even.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything about safety features? Because, as cool as all this is, safety's got to be a top priority.
For sure. And the articles made it clear that Polestar isn't skimping on safety. The Polestar 3 is supposed to have a whole suite of advanced safety features. Things like collision avoidance, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, all that good stuff.
So it's not just about looking good and being powerful, it's about being smart and safe, too. It really sounds like they thought of everything with this car.
It does, doesn't it? You get the sense that Polestar is trying to make a statement with the Polestar 3,
What kind of statement?
a statement about the future of electric vehicles, that they can be luxurious, high-performing, packed with technology, and contribute to a more sustainable future.
So it's like they took all the best aspects of electric vehicles and kind of, I don't know, distilled them into this sleek Scandinavian designed package.
That's a great way to put it. But, and this is important to remember, right now we're just working with what's in these articles.
Right, right. It's all well and good to read about impressive specs and features, but it's a whole other thing to actually get behind the wheel.
Exactly. We need real-world data, feedback from drivers, reviewers, that kind of thing, to really get the full picture.
Absolutely. This deep dive has been really eye-opening. I mean, we've covered so much ground, from design to performance to the tech, even how this car could change how we think about energy consumption with that whole bidirectional charging thing.
It's a lot to process, and honestly, based on the articles I read, I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
I hear you. Especially with a car this technologically advanced, there's always more to learn.
Exactly. I'm really curious to see how the Polestar 3 performs in real-world testing and how it stacks up against the competition, of course.
Me too.
Hmm.
I think it'll be really interesting to see how this all unfolds.
Yeah, and more importantly, how it might influence the future of electric vehicles.
Great point. Well, it seems like we've got a lot to look forward to as the EV revolution keeps rolling on.
Absolutely, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning.
Yeah, it really makes you think. The whole automotive landscape is changing so fast.
It really is. And the Polestar 3 is a great example of how those changes can be both, like exciting and a little bit, I don't know, mind-bending.
Right. It's not just about swapping out gas for batteries. It's about rethinking the whole driving experience
Exactly.
and maybe how we power our lives in general. You mentioned earlier that everything we've talked about so far is based on these articles you found, which is interesting, right? So what's got you most curious about the Polestar 3 once it actually hits the streets?
Ooh, that is a great question. I think for me, it really comes down to that real-world performance. They're claiming this impressive range, but how does that actually hold up in different driving conditions? How intuitive is all this technology in everyday use?
Right.
And I guess most importantly, what's it actually like to drive?
Yeah, that's huge, right? The feeling, it's one thing to read about a quiet cabin and sustainable materials, but to actually sit in the driver's seat, feel the craftsmanship, that's a whole different ballgame.
Totally. I mean, these articles give us a good starting point, but we need those real-world experiences, those reviews, to really get a complete picture.
For sure. Well, I don't know about you, but this deep dive has given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure our listeners are right there with us. It seems like the 2025 Pulsar 3 wants to be more than just another EV. It wants to be a glimpse into the future of driving.
It does, doesn't it? And it makes you wonder, what kind of impact this will have on the automotive industry as a whole.
Mm.
Will we see a surge in this Scandinavian minimalist design?
Mhm.
Will bidirectional charging become the norm? I mean, who knows? But it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're going to have to wrap up this deep dive here. Hopefully, everyone listening found this exploration of the Polestar 3 as informative as I did.
And maybe even a little inspiring. It's clear that electric is the future, and the Polestar 3 is really pushing the boundaries of what that future could look like.
Couldn't agree more. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those wheels turning.